At Regan Pegg Solicitors, we offer practical, intelligent and sensible advice to professionals who might be put before their disciplinary body. That might be a doctor who's before the General Medical Council. By way of an example, I represented an occupational health therapist, newly qualified, Band 5, who was before her disciplinary body, which is the Health and Care Professions Council. So with professional discipline hearings, clients are often very stressed, naturally, because their career is at stake, but we at Regan Pegg Solicitors, we like to think that their career is in very safe hands. Naturally, being at risk of having your licence to practice suspended or potentially being struck off your register completely is something that clients will find completely overwhelming, often whilst they're still trying to work in their industry. So at Regan Pegg Solicitors, we try and take the sting out of it and try and find out the best way forward for them in their particular case. So we will often write to their professional body and try and get as much evidence as we possibly can to find out exactly what the client is being accused of. And then we will take very detailed instructions from the client to find out what they say, and then we'll be able to start piecing together their case in order to prepare for potentially what could be a final panel hearing or an interim hearing as well. I represented a newly qualified Band 5 occupational therapist who was before the Health and Care Professions Council. She had been bullied during the early stages of her career by more senior staff, and essentially the professional body were concerned with some administrative errors that she'd made during the early stages of her career. But it was during what was a very pressured and stressful time for her specifically. And as the case transpired, it turned out that there was more to it than met the eye, essentially. For me, my role was to sit down with her at various interviews, go through all of the evidence, and best prepare for her final hearing. Although she admitted some of the errors that were put to her, the HCPC had decided that they couldn't deal with it other than by way of a final hearing. The HCPC could have cautioned her, they could have taken no action, or they could have essentially struck her off her professional register. So essentially her job was at stake here, something that she'd studied hard for and worked very hard to obtain. So it was an extremely stressful time for her, and so we went along to a 5-day final panel hearing, and we put forward her case, and that also involved me having to cross-examine the other witnesses in the case and put my client's case to them, and then conclude and see what the panel had decided. Luckily for her, the panel decided to take no further action, and they were persuaded that those errors weren't enough to kind of warrant any form of caution or dismissal for that particular client, so it was a good result.